I'm the Geeky Amreeki.
And I'm Tabletop Santa, and we are distant socializing.
No, I say that part. You just say your name.
You should say that. I shouldn't say that at all.
Obviously, I and many others know who you are, but there may be some people watching who don't. So please explain who you are, because it's definitely going to need explaining.
Right. So I am Tabletop Santa. I am a social media marketing professional outside of this persona, but in this persona, I am here to bring cheer and joy through the efforts of building a board game community and the tabletop industry. I promote and talk about games.
Now, board games, right?
Board games specifically, board games, tabletop role-playing games, card games, anything that is not digital.
Now, obviously, because of Corona, how do you think that's affected like tabletop gaming?
So oddly, the industry has done very well in this time of crisis in that with everybody being stuck at home, they have to find new things to do to entertain themselves. And a lot of people have turned to board games because there are solo board games where you can just play by yourself, obviously. And when you're stuck with your family and sometimes roommates, they are pulling out the board games, and with like roadside pickup or curbside pickup and just regular delivery through Amazon and stuff, it hasn't taken that big of a hit. And there have been some resources that have done very well.
They've got the 2 vaccines that are looking pretty promising. Fingers crossed. Hopefully that'll start soon. In a couple months, they said they'll have it all made and everything. I think that's why they're doing the big lockdown in the States and other places to kind of get it to go
back down a little bit. Spikes. Yeah, we're seeing some return spikes, and I think if it gets brought back down to a decent level, we'll be fine.
So speaking of board games and tabletop, role-playing in general, and this is where everybody has their best ideas. I was sitting on the toilet, and I was watching one of your things where you're kind of summarizing a game and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if, I could survive in a place like that. I have these skills and stuff. And that's when I was like, man, I got to reach out to him. And then we do a character based off of me, what I know, what I don't know, and see if I could survive in like a fantasy place or like a post-apocalyptic scenario or something. So that's what I want to try to do today. So are you down or what?
I'm down. And that's why I actually have some breakdowns on how we're going to discern what your like skills and abilities are, right? And what's going to make your physical attributes either higher or lower than what you might think they might be based on these things. All right. So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is from basically when you were 5 years old to you were 10 years old. I need to find out 3 things. One, what is something that you did physically that you enjoyed? A sport, outdoor activity, something like that.
I did a lot of sports. I did football. I used to climb trees and do the outdoorsy stuff a lot, though.
Okay.
To the point where I fell out of this huge tree and they got the wind knocked out of me and stuff. But I was definitely outdoorsy, going hiking, playing outside. You can come home, you can stay out and ride your bike, but when the street lights turn on, you got to be back.
Right. That's a very 80s, 90s thing. All right. So football, outdoors, tree climbing, you're very active. That was your physical activity that you were all about as a child. Now, what was something that you did in that 5-year-old to 10-year-old that was like, what was your favorite subject in school at that age? Or did you do a lot of reading, and what kind of books did you read?
I did some reading, but I was more an artist. I was actually writing stories and making like coloring books for myself and things like that. Like when Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome came out, I wasn't allowed to go see it till my parents saw it first. And so I remember seeing the commercials, and I drew like what I thought happened in the movie, like the full story into basically like a coloring book for me. And my parents were like, wow. So they got me an art table for it and everything. So it's always been kind of the arts and creative stuff
Okay.
and writing.
And finally, something social. What did you do that was your biggest social thing during that time? Be it go to movies, uh, hang out with your friends, and when you hung out with friends, what kind of things did you do, or what did you do with your family that was more of a social activity?
We did a lot of, I guess, family gatherings and things like that. Anytime there were holidays and stuff. I had a few friends. We did a lot of bike riding and outdoorsy stuff, like I said. But
Mhm.
um, for me, we moved around a lot, so I had to like get used to making new friends and that kind of stuff all the time.
Okay. All right, so that's our 5 to 10 year span. So when you were just a wee child, those are the things that you were about. All right, so
Yeah.
that gives me some information. Now we're going to go to your 11 to 18, those formative years. All right, those years when you're really starting to get to know yourself, you're really getting that solid friend circle. But maybe in your case, because you traveled so much, that wasn't a thing for you. So maybe there's something else in your life that was more uh, uh, kind of built who you are today. So
Yeah.
let's go with, again, what did you do physically in your middle school to high school years?
Middle school, I still was. I said football, but it's soccer. So I did a bunch of soccer and stuff.
Mhm.
Then you had like tag and dodgeball and those kind of things.
Mhm.
But high school, not much because I was working because I lived
Okay.
on. So from like 15 on, I've been on my own.
During that time frame, again, middle school to the end of your high school time, and if you were living alone, what were the intellectual endeavors that you partook in? You did your general schooling, sure, but again, was it still focused on art, or was it more stimulated by video games or whatever?
Video games a little bit, because video games back in the day were a lot more money for somebody,
Mhm.
But so a little bit of video games, but more reading books, and more learning stuff like, things about tying knots and making zip lines and, outdoor single and group activities. It was more like,
Okay.
yeah, I was definitely a nerd. I was more intellectual. I was more solitary at the time. Um,
Okay.
but it wasn't really by choice. You know what I mean?
Okay. No worries. And finally, again, what were your social events that you partook in during that time frame?
Man, not much. When I would go to work after school, like I would have a good time talking with people there, hanging out while we were cooking or cleaning or whatever it was.
Okay.
And then I lived in a group home, and it was a bunch of us guys. Um, so we'd listen to music like new albums like Fugazi or the new Tupac album or whatever, and talk about that. Watch TV shows or whatever.
Okay. What was your favorite television show?
At the time,
Mhm.
man, when did Buffy come out?
Early 90s, I want to say. 93,
Yeah,
94.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was like when I was 17, 18. So we'll say Buffy.
Okay. That's a good one. You can learn vampire slaying there.
And
All right.
I was really into zombie stuff,
Okay.
movies and books and aliens. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And now here we are. You're a grown man. You're after 18. What are I'm sorry. Let's go back to the teenage years. What did you do when you say you worked? What did you do for work?
I worked at McDonald's and Little Caesars because I had to kind of like work two jobs while going to high school to afford to live, basically.
Yeah.
So there was no, I didn't go to prom. I
Mhm.
didn't do any of that stuff. I was, I had friends at school, but after
Mhm.
school, no, man. After school, I was grinding. I was surviving.
Okay. So you could already handle the whole apocalyptic scenario because you kind of lived it.
Yeah.
All right. So as an adult, the questions are a little bit different. How many different jobs have you had? and what it doesn't. We don't have to go all over them, but like the ones that are more thematic to the same. Like, what did you do in your first career, your mid career, and your current?
Okay, so first career, I was a firefighter and medic in the Air Force, like
Okay.
kind of like you. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I knew how to like shoot a rifle. I had like marksman, expert marksman ribbon, all that stuff. So, but I also knew how to control fires, fight fires, use all of the heavy equipment, jaws of life,
Okay.
Halligan's axes, all the big fire trucks. I had like a license for almost every uh, type of fire truck, whether it was a structural or the big giant. Actually, the biggest fire truck in the world, the P-15, which has it's so big it has to have people standing on the turrets in the front and the back. It's got an engine in the front and the back because the tires are actually taller than a man. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so that was the first one, and of course, treating people, medical, delivering babies, pulling
Mhm.
people out of wrecks, CPR, you name it.
Mhm.
And then mid, we will say, um, I guess when I was a cable guy, so I was dealing with a lot of ladders, digging stuff, taking stuff apart,
Okay.
putting things together, a lot of math things. This uh the firefighting and the cable thing kind of went together. Like I've got this many hundreds or meters of
Mhm.
stuff like cable, and it loses this much signal or this much pounds per square inch. So I had to get really good and really quick at that.
Okay.
And then the firefighting thing too, I had to do with like chemical warfare, and I taught
Nice.
like nuclear, biological, chemical attack and survival class and things. So when the cable
So
guy,
the whole C. Bernie catalog,
yeah, yeah,
chemical, biological, nuclear, yeah, all
yeah,
that.
basically any way that we can kill ourselves
Right.
or get killed by Mother Nature. Which is why when this started, I was like, oh. But so with the cable guy thing, dealing with people a lot, especially
Okay.
like where I was in the deep south. I was in Florida, but I was below Alabama in the Panhandle, Floribama,
Yep.
hardcore right wing and all that kind of stuff. So I had to
Mhm.
deal with a lot of people who weren't used to like a Yankee coming to their house and who you voting for this election? Obama.
Right.
Oh, really? And the things they said. Um, so
Were
there
you
was a
up in like,
lot.
Pensacola?
Yeah, yeah, right near there.
Okay.
Like Pensacola's here. I'm like right here, Fort Walton, Destin, where they filmed the Truman Show,
Right.
basically.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, a lot of outdoor, tons of outdoor stuff, dealing with heat, and then the winter, the cold, um, problem solving. And
Okay.
now current um, filmmaker, photographer, out in the middle of the desert here in the GCC, whether it was Kuwait or sometimes UAE, Qatar.
Mhm.
So, I'm used to dealing with the temperatures, the humidity, the adverse stuff like sandstorms and everything, and while still trying to get out and do my job. And especially my last job, I guess you could say, was kind of both. I did precision driving instruction.
Okay.
So I taught people how to avoid big accidents, how to control if their vehicle goes out of control, like a drift. Those the drift
Mhm.
vehicles with the loose wheels in the back. What to do if your
Yeah.
tire blows out. And I was doing all that while still doing the photography and videography thing.
Okay.
So, and I also taught the off-road, like MRAPs, the big armored vehicles you see like in the police forces or
Mhm.
like in Fear the Walking Dead. I'm licensed on like
Yeah.
6 of those.
Big tactical vehicle quals.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. Do you have a degree from any
Yes.
university or okay?
Yeah, I have the degree in visual communications from Westwood College, a college which is now uh, out of business.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, it's one of those where like people are like, wow, this college is really good, but it's really expensive.
Yeah.
And then the government like stepped in and like closed them down and stuff. So,
Wow.
but so I learned everything in that like on the base level, they taught web design,
Mhm.
Flash programming, graphic design, photography, a little bit of film stuff, like a couple classes. Most of
Okay.
the stuff I do now is self-taught, but
Right.
yeah. So I got a BS in that.
Okay. And then um, finally, this is like the last question to the who you are. And then we're going to go into a little bit more of the what can you do, right? This tells me what you can do, but there's some other things I'd like to know what you can do. The
Yeah.
last question is, how many languages do you speak?
Fully fluent, I speak English, but I do know enough of like customs, courtesies,
Okay.
safety stuff in Arabic, Russian, Japanese, South Korean, or Korean, but but let's just say one main one and a couple like if I ran into somebody, I could
Mhm.
say, hey man, friend, whatever.
So you are fluent both reading and writing in English, and you know the customary greetings and formalities of certain of up to four other languages.
Yeah, but I definitely
Okay.
couldn't read it or anything like that. But
Okay.
because I've been all over the world too, like body language, I'm really good at.
Yep.
Because I've been even in the GCC. I was in Saudi, I was in Dubai, I was in Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Qatar.
Mhm.
Everybody like you get a vibe for how somebody's feeling, even if you don't speak whatever it is.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
And finally, this is the tough question for a lot of people too in this categories. How old are you today?
43.
43. Okay.
That ain't
So
tough. It
we've
is
had
what
a
it is.
life, ladies and gentlemen. The Geeky Amreeki has had a life, seen a lot of things, done a lot of things, had a lot of interests from the
Yeah.
beginning till today, and they've changed as we kind of gotten to know you. There's been some shifts in some of your things, right?
Oh yeah.
So now we go into your actual attributes, your strength, your intelligence, your dexterity, your wisdom and constitution, and then of course your charisma, right? So first we're going to talk about your strength, how physically strong you are. All right. So when's the last time you went to the gym and did like the most you could bench press or shoulder press or anything like that?
Even when I was in amazing shape, like when I was a firefighter, I was never like, oh, I'm gonna bench three. I benched like 200. But the thing about a lot of physical stuff is technique. So I could take a
Correct.
185-pound dead weight beanbag dummy, throw it up over my shoulder with no effort,
Right.
but not be winded and stuff after. Where you'd have like this a big muscle guy, like we have this dude Scribner who could bench like 380 pounds. He could throw that dummy up there too. But then if we had to both go up the stairs,
Right.
we had
He
like
was gassed.
he was gassed like a quarter of the way up, and I was all the way up, no problem. You know what I mean?
And that attributes to probably playing a lot of soccer as a child, right? Building up
Yeah.
your constitution. So your constitution. So I kind of had that guess with you that you're probably going to land around the 12 or 13 of 18 being the highest. 18 being like someone that can bench like 500 pounds, right? Like
No.
Conan, right? Where 12 to 13, 12 or 13 is just your average guy. 10 is truly average, but you've
Like
had training. You know how to manipulate your body and use your strengths at where they're at. So I think I'm thinking like a 13 strength, but I have a feeling your constitution is going to be better based on all the things that you've said that you've done in your life and the situations you've been in. You've obviously had to pick up a lot of like skills and abilities, which attest to your intelligence.
yeah,
Having a bachelor's degree absolutely attests to your intelligence as well. It also attests to your ability to complete a task,
yeah.
right? So as far as your intelligence goes, I'm thinking that you're going to be around that 16 level because you have a bachelor's, you have multiple skill sets based on your vast experiences. An 18 would be like
Stephen Hawking.
Like a Stephen Hawking's type. You could do tactical stuff. You could do
electrical.
The gamut of like, if you come across a generator, you're probably going to be the guy I'd read like, hey man, we found a generator, we found some fuel, but I don't know how to work this thing. You're going to be like, say less, and you're going to make it happen, right? Yeah. And or if there's some sort of like ham radio that, I'm going to be like, did someone say ham? I'm all about it. But you're going to be like, and we'll be communicating with another outpost in a post-apocalyptic or even in stuff. So I'm going to put you at 16. And because wisdom and intelligence kind of run back and forth, and for anybody out there that is like, what's the difference? A lot of people ask that question. What's the difference between wisdom and intelligence? And I always like to tell them is this. Intelligence is learning the preamble to the Constitution and memorizing it. The wisdom is knowing not to say it everywhere you go. Right?
Wisdom is learning from your mistakes and looking at where you were when you were 20. No matter how smart you are, when you're 20, you are a dumbass. All right.
Right.
And then now that I'm 43, there's so many things that I'm way different on. So
absolutely. So I was thinking about putting you in that 16 range again, because I also think that you learn a lot of wisdom through your life experiences and having military experience, having worldly experience, not just staying in the States, but finding yourself in many places around the world also lends to becoming a wiser individual, right? Because you can talk intelligently about things, but you can also talk about the wisdom of the world. Right. So I want to put you at the 16 level there as well. And also you mentioned in your background that you grew up in a youth home.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you a lot of street sense and a lot of street wisdom. I also lived in a youth home for a while, so I understand it. And it's like, okay, there's a wisdom that can be gained from that as well. And the fact that you can read body languages is a very, wisdomly attribute, because an intelligent person can look at someone and say something about the way they're handling themselves or whatever. It's like, you're not holding that pen right, or you're doing this thing wrong. And a wise person will be like, it's because of this and because of that, and it can work through it. So I think that's where you're going to land in there too. Now, dexterity and constitution, which, are still part of your physical strengths and stuff, as far as like your ability to move out of the way, do this stuff. The fact that you taught tactical driving techniques for evasive driving and all this stuff and precision driving, that means that you have to have a high dexterity. You have to be able to not just move and dodge and do this thing, but you also have to have the wherewithal to be focused about your surroundings, right? Yeah. Beyond your normal bubble of insight. Yeah. So I'm thinking your dexterity is going to be like 17. You can shoot a weapon. You have expert in that, and precision driving alone tells me that there's a high level of dexterity that you have going for you. So I'm going to put you at a 17 there. 18 would be Olympic level gymnasty, weird stuff like that, or Robin Hood.
I'd say knock it down a notch though, because I've put on a little bit of weight. So
okay. Okay. So
if I was 17, put it 16.
Okay. And then your constitution, because you've had a history of physical activity that isn't all about the strength training, but the duration and the durability of getting to the finish line, working as a firefighter, doing all the tasks, doing the things where you're going at the buildings and training, carrying hose and full turnout gear, doing all that stuff. That is taxing. And if you can do it with carrying a body of a dummy or even a real person, is huge. Playing soccer through your childhood up through your teenage years, and you probably have found opportunity to do some pickup games in your adult life.
I played hockey and all that stuff once I got older too. You know what I mean?
Again, hockey would also lend.
I was a goon.
Dexterity, your hand-eye coordination.
See how this nail looks weird? It's because I had the tip of my finger slashed off during one of my games.
during hockey.
Yeah. They taped it up and I went back in and I made that dude pay.
So I want to put you at that 16, 17 level.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was thinking 17, but I'm going to knock it back down to 16 because you already said it. When we get over 40, there's a few things we have a harder time getting rid of.
Yeah.
But
that's why we lead and delegate.
Right. Or inspire others to do great things.
Yeah.
Right. And then finally we have our charisma. I'm going off your traditional D&D stats for this because it's just the one thing I know best. And it's also, it's more widely understood. People get it. Oh yeah. So as far as the final stat or attribute is your charisma, right? So my thing is, I think that based on our interactions, your ability to read the room, right? Body language, all that stuff. The fact that you do a entertainment level content with your, as a Geeky Amreeki and your social media stuff that you create and the video content, I think that your charisma is also going to be relatively high because you have to have charisma to stand in front of a bunch of people and tell them how their driving sucks.
Yeah. I once stood in front of 18,000 people in Rhode Island and gave a speech on a stage that rotated. So I couldn't avoid talking to, you know what I mean? But going back to the last thing too, is I have the unofficial world record for being shot the most times by a paintball firing squad. It was like 14 dudes. I got shot 3,000 times.
Why did you do that?
It was like it was like as a promotion for the paintball field because people were always saying I don't want to play, it hurts too much. They get shot once or twice, and I was like, come on, man, toughen up, whatever. I was like, you're complaining about one or two, watch this. I was supposed to go to 4,000. Right around 3,000, I was like, I started to get a really severe pain on my side, which I don't usually feel that. I my tolerance for pain is ridiculous. And so I was like, man, stop. You could see it in the video. I was like, cut it. And it turns out one of the guys was just shooting in the same spot over and over to be funny. So when I took the jersey off after, I had this giant, one massive bruise, and it took 3 weeks for it to even start to discolor. It was just red. And then it finally started doing that greenish blue,
That little bit of yellowing on the edge.
Where people are like, are you okay? Do you have some kind of disease?
I think I'm going to knock your intelligence down one more. Or maybe because that doesn't sound fun. But I understand. So that's the charisma factor that you have, that you're able to inspire, educate, and entertain others through through who you are and your abilities. So I'm going to put you at 16 there as well. So you're a very high, you're not physically strong per se, but you're strong in everything else. Okay. Yeah. Which tells me if we were to take this character, I would probably, in a fantasy setting, I would either make you a bard or a combat cleric. All right. And again, that's in that combat cleric that also maybe does some cross training as a sorcerer, because in a fantasy world, anything that has to do with electronics or electrical type stuff is absolutely magic.
Yeah.
Right? So like a war cleric or a bard. A bard just knows a lot of stuff and can inspire and all that, right? So they're a jack of all trades, and they're usually really good at the things that they know. So in the fantasy world, that's where I'd put you. Yeah. In a post-apocalyptic future world, I would obviously throw you straight into the survivalist category, minus the prepper side of it. I don't know if you're a prepper in real life. I didn't really ask that question.
I would be. If I was in the States, I'd have a garage full of whatever I need to. Okay. My mindset, and I'm not making this up, is if I live like in the coast. I want my house on like the telephone pole stilts. I want to be
Right.
able to like take my stairs out. So the only way I can get up would be like the rope ladder that I can either go up or down, that kind of thing.
You want to put a
Uh,
moat, a
yeah,
house on stilts
basically.
with a moat.
Like if I if I get back to the States and I build a house, I'm building a wall around it with like a
Okay.
heavy duty gate. Like I'm that paranoid and always because people are like, "Oh, zombies will never happen" or whatever, and I'm like, dude, and this is a fact. Every single day, there are 7 new chemicals created unintentionally alone in like industrial and medical and all this stuff
Yeah.
research. So you never know. It just takes the one, man.
Right. And my whole thing too is in the post-apocalyptic space, I'm actually not too worried about zombies.
No,
I'm more worried about my fellow human.
the Raiders.
Right. The raiders, the
Yeah,
scavengers,
yeah, and
right?
I have a friend named Carl, and like we're both heavy into that stuff, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going Raiders straight away." I was like, "How could you go Raiders straight away?" He's like, "I'm getting what I need. I'm gonna take it if I have to, whatever." And I was like, "So we'd end up like fighting in there, and whatever." He's like, "I guess
Right.
so."
Right. So that's why I put you in as a survivalist in the future. You have a wide variety of skill sets that are very adaptable to the survivability of any potential task that might come to you. And you'd probably, I think, be someone that you'd want a community around you of similar minded individuals,
Yeah,
and you would probably help others that you find in situations that are life threatening. So there's going to be absolutely that survivalist warrior aspect. Almost you mentioned it again earlier, a little Mad Maxy, a
yeah,
little
yeah.
Mad Max,
Well,
right?
that's my jam.
Right. You're gonna have the hot rod. You're gonna have all sorts of weird accoutrement on your hot rod that a normal person wouldn't have.
Yeah,
You know, a bunch of weird radios because of your experience with precision driving and having the skill set to drive a bunch of bigger tactical vehicles. You're probably going to be able to identify things in a normal environment that you could be like, ooh, if I put that on the side paneling of my vehicle, it's going to give me a rating of X against certain types of rounds. So my survivability factor is going to go up. You're going to
yeah.
have that kind of like that going for you. So those are my two like categories for you: fantasy and post-apocalyptic. In the modern world, we're a dying breed, bro.
Oh yeah, we are, man. Like this is a true story. All right, I worked like 3 blocks from here before at this youth center where we did like mentorship, and we'd have like musician and artist kids come, and I would help them. I mean, obviously I'm not a musician, but I can hear and help produce and that kind of thing. Just like I'm not like a professional dancer, but I do professional dance videos all the time, and I help with choreography and stuff.
Right.
And where there was a second story room that we were gonna take, and there was a wall that divided it, and the other one, it was usually one big room. They wanted to get rid of that and make it like this big studio. So we go up there, and these 2 kids are like, "I want to run through it to knock it
Okay.
down," and I was like, "Okay, I get what you're saying. It would be fun if you go right through the wall." I'm like, "But we don't know what's in between those 2 pieces of gypsum or drywall, whatever they made it out of."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it could be wooden studs. We don't know if they were smart and they did it the right way, which if you hit that, you're going to probably break an arm or dislocate your shoulder or something. Or maybe it's the metal ones. And if you do go partly through the wall, maybe you're going to cut something. I'm like, so we can't do that. So I got a hammer and I broke a hole, and it was like the metal studs. So they would have got hurt big time.
Right.
So I go through and I show them how to like tear drywall down and stuff. And then I hand one kid the hammer. I'm like, all right, start tearing the stuff down, breaking it, and then I'll come by and peel it and clean it up or whatever. And I give the other kid a screwdriver. I'm like, you unscrew the cross beams on the metal part and stuff. And he comes over and he starts just pressing the screwdriver into the screw. And I was like, man, you're joking with me, right? You messing with me? He's like, bro, I don't know how to use a screwdriver. He's like, my dad and my mom, they have it's a thing over here where like a lot of like the richer families and stuff, they have people come and do stuff for them. He's like, my dad doesn't even know how to. And I've got two boys. I got a soon to be 21-year-old and a soon to be 4-year-old. And they both already, like my son, of course, like the 21-year-old, he knows all that stuff. Me and my 4-year-old knows how to use a drill, screwdriver,
Right.
hammer, like everything. The other kid is trying to take out a nail. Here's the claw. He's got the nail on one side, not between. And I was like, no, I know you guys are messing with me. And again, he was like, I've never done this before. So I had to teach two nearly adult boys, guys, whatever, how to use normal tools. So the dying breed thing is for sure. And I even told him that day, I'm like, what if something happened tomorrow where we lost all electricity and you guys had to like, strengthen your house and do all these other things, And I'm like, I built a whole addition onto a house with myself and my old father-in-law who was like 70 at the time, but we did it within a few days. I'm like, so I know how to do what I need to do. You guys would be in trouble, And I'm like, that's even without raiders or any kind of problems. I'm like, we got some work to do.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not saying that obviously the younger generations don't have the skill sets, but there are those individuals within that space that are lacking, like basic, or what we would consider very basic information.
How to change a tire.
Right. Yeah.
Almost no one I ask these days knows how to do it.
Right.
Even grown-ups. And I'm like,
yeah.
So what happens if, even in America, like everybody wants to be an influencer. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber, a TikToker, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, I saw this video the other day on TikTok, and it said, for you older people, those of you born in the 90s, like, what?
Right.
That's older? And then, like, how they're calling us boomers.
Right.
Like,
and we're not.
Not a boomer. That's like, what is it, 46 to 64, or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, so yeah. Anyway,
it's a weird dynamic that we're seeing, and I actually wasn't ever going to get on TikTok, and yes, I am. For those of you watching, I am not. I was adamantly against it. It was kids dancing on the videos and lip syncing to their favorite songs. I talked to my own children, my two youngest ones that are now 15 and 16, and asked them about it, because as a marketer, as a, someone that does, content to, for marketing of games and stuff, I was like, all right, if kids are consuming this content, there's got to be something about it that I could spin. And now it's the platform I want to be on all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for somebody who wasn't going to be on there, you sure are good at it. every time.
What I do is whenever there's a new platform I want to get on, I take 10 hours and I just immerse myself in the platform. I see what everybody else is doing. I look at the functionality of the platform itself, and I give it 10 hours. And after 10 hours, I can't think of some way to use it, I won't do it.
Yeah.
But if I can, and I can see how I can make content in that space, then I'm on board. And you're right. I have had some okay success on there. So
you got a pretty good, you got really good engagement and stuff. So
that one video you mentioned before we jumped on here about hues and cues, the flow palette, that just had it's already broke 1 million views, man. That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Right. I mean, some people thought it was a makeup palette, so I get it. But I think with your character that we put together here, I'll do a fuller write up for it, like on our actual character sheet and stuff. And you had mentioned that we will try to find someone else. I'll find someone, do it with them, and then we'll bring you guys together and see if you could work together to survive in a conflict.
I wanted to.
You want me to be? Oh, I'm like, I can tell you what I am. I'm like a strength 17. I can still bench like 350.
Yeah.
I'm an intelligence 14 and a wisdom 4.
So
I have no dexterity. It does not exist. You know, I take that back. For some reason, I'm really good at like, even though I'm a 6'5", 400-pound giant.
Yeah.
I'm really sneaky.
Yeah.
Sir. I have very light feet when I walk around. I sneak up on people all the time, like scared.
So you're like a rogue barbarian.
I'm like a rogue barbarian. Yeah. My constitution is crap. I'm 400 pounds, man. I'm winded just thinking about walking to the refrigerator to get a bottle of water.
Yeah, last night.
But I think I have a really good charisma. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. If not, I wouldn't be doing this with you. Yeah, like after we had that, where we initially met through the QGX and stuff, I was like, this guy's really cool, and that's why, like, even if I don't have a chance to watch the whole video or whatever, like, I'll hit like, and I usually comment or something. And but yeah, I mean, like, it's good stuff. It's fun. It's interesting, and like, whenever you get new things, like, I want to play a couple of them so bad. The Dark Souls looks really good. There was another one. It's
Devil May Cry.
No, it can be single player or up to 6, I think. Like, one dude wrote it, made it.
Gloomhaven?
Yes, that's it. It was with the G. I was like, oh, I can't. Yeah. So that one I really want to play. Like, that looks really good to me. Like, I want to play that. I want to make videos about it, that kind of thing. And there was one other one. They say it's very similar to Gloomhaven, but it's a little bit more advanced, a little bit more in depth, and the creatures are definitely like more detailed and scarier, and it's about like $100 more.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, that's Kingdom Death.
Yeah.
Kingdom Death it's more expensive, but the miniatures are just ridiculously good. Yeah. Another game that is very similar to Gloomhaven is called Massive Darkness by Kumini or Simon. And they have some really great miniatures too. And it's a dungeon crawl, game. And so, yeah, that one's pretty fun as well.
Yeah.
But Gloomhaven, Isaac Childish, who created that game, did a great job. And they just he did a Kickstarter earlier this year for Frosthaven, which I am excited because I backed it and I can't wait to get it in because I love the cold.
Yeah, me too. I like that. Like where I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'll take everybody that I care about, I love, whatever. We're going to go and we're going to get something like out in the woods, more towards the north, to where we have like snow and the cold and everything. It's kind of like part of a natural barrier, and try to fortify, but also have a nice place.
Oh yeah, I mean, up in Montana, relatively cheap land.
That's the dream, dude.
Yeah, man. I actually do love the cold. It's kind of funny as I'm originally from Michigan. I was born not in the UP, but almost. I'm just under the bridge of the Mackinac Bridge, so I'm literally a troll because I was born under a bridge. And I love the cold. My second wife is from Sweden. We'd go to Sweden during Christmas.
Why am I talking like Minnesota?
Yeah, it was so awesome, And if I couldn't live in the States and live in the North and be in, like you said, have that environmental barrier for protection, I would like to live in northern Sweden, like almost Lapland, almost up there with the indigenous. Santa's true helpers.
And they know how to make furniture.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Very cool. This was fun, and I will find someone that will kind of do this with me, or I'll do it, and we'll come together. I have a feeling that if we were to be stuck in certain environmental areas, like even though I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan and Qatar and Bahrain and Dubai and all those countries, I would not survive there very long because I do not like the.
Yeah, I think though that you would adjust and stuff, especially because you were military and you were Navy, right? Navy corpsman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, if you can deal with all that stuff, you can deal with the heat. You adjust. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you look at snipers, how they can lay there for like 3 days and let bugs crawl on them and bite them so that they don't get discovered and they don't lose that perfect shot. I mean, obviously we're not that extreme.
No, because
That's
I would
that's
3 days
way
in
more
one
training.
spot is a nap.
Yeah. So, but I think wherever we had to go, we'd adapt to it. It's just like when you've lived in these places and stuff, you'll see somebody on like social media, like even on TikTok, and they're crying and they're like, I moved overseas away from my family so I can make money, and now I don't have any friends and there's nothing to do here. Like, there's plenty to do here. You got to get up
Mhm.
off your butt, get off TikTok or whatever, and go out and see. There's good food, there's good people. Like, there's plenty to do anywhere you go, no matter where you are.
I
Unless you're in like
agree.
even in prison, I guess you could find stuff to do. But
And Dungeons and Dragons in prison.
yeah.
Uh, I think that's kind of interesting that you say that because, like, in my military career, I was stationed in Hawaii twice. Right,
Lucky.
Hawaii on the island of Oahu isn't a big island. Um, but it's kind of like you said. If you're willing to actually go out into the community and participate, there's an endless amount of things to do. But when you, as
Just
a
be
lot of
careful
people
where you
get
go, white boy.
correct, I was actually fine because
Yeah.
oddly, I never had any issue like that.
Yeah.
Which
What do they
I know people that do,
what
but
do they
I
call
never
them?
did.
Howley? Howley
Howley,
code?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what they, yeah, visitor.
yeah.
But I'd go out there and like I would moonlight as a bouncer at a local club or a bar. And they'd all laugh because even then, I was 6'5", I wasn't 400 pounds. I was, heavy 280, 290, but I was jacked.
Yeah.
And, but I was still one of the smallest people because you got all the Hawaiians and the Samoans out there that are just monsters
Yeah.
and
They're like
beasts, but they're super kind. Once you get in doing stuff with the community and you're not there to be, I don't know how to put it without like maybe offending some people, but some people are just freaking dumb,
yeah.
right? Because you see when they go when Americans, and I love America,
Oh,
obviously,
Americans are idiots when they travel. They're so stupid. It is what
right?
it
Because
is.
we're very arrogant. We think that everything should cater to us. We're very self-centered as a populace.
New
And again, that's
travelers.
what's that?
New travelers, I should say. Like people who travel a lot
Right,
tend to grow that second part of their brain out more. But
right. I
like
agree.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say everybody that's American is a bad traveler, but when you're young in your 20s and just
you suck.
full of spit and vinegar, uh, and you think that everything's there to cater for you, that's when you have a problem. If you go to like, I've been to Japan, and before I even got to Japan, I was trying to learn some phraseology, like, if I don't understand something, wakirimasan, or whatever, or,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nada kariwa.
I have no idea what
Yeah.
but or going to Mexico, dos cervezos, por favor. You gotta, and you do it in such a way that you learn enough that they appreciate that you even took the effort, and you're not someone that's going somewhere. Or if someone comes to our country and you're like, you should speak English, don't be rude about it. If they speak any English, be be happy for them. Be like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so cool. Is there anything you want to learn? How can we communicate better? It's so weird, man. And
Yeah,
I was never like that.
Americans. A lot of them are pretty self-entitled, and they have this complex. If they've not been outside the country, like America's the best, we're the best. Like, dude, these people are coming to visit or live or whatever. A lot of them are opening up their own businesses and stuff. And like over here, the average person I know speaks 3 languages.
That's crazy.
Almost everybody speaks English. They all speak Arabic. A lot of them speak French, and some speak Italian.
Wow.
So, I mean, so if somebody comes over there and they're speaking broken English, it doesn't mean they're dumb. It means their English is
Right.
limited. But guess what? They know 4 languages, and most Americans know 1. So,
Wow. And it's usually broken English.
yeah. It's like the worst English of all the English.
No, I agree. I think that there's a lot that to be said for being worldly and being aware that, we aren't the only nation, and that, and it's interesting that there are others that don't, there are other nations and other countries that's not even a part of their understanding of the world, right? They're not like, we're the best. I think it's literally, I think it's just us.
Yeah. Oh, it's America, definitely. And a lot of my British friends, they have a bit of that. Not as much as Americans do, but they've got a pretty good amount of it too. I think just colonial, people who came from that background, especially white boys. White boys, we are amazing at that kind of stuff. We are going to save everybody. We're going to win. We've got a solution for everything. But it's definitely like a Western thing where, whether it was Russia, Japan, Korea, even here in the GCC, the attitude is like, I'm going to do my best. And if I don't know something, then I'll ask or whatever. And America is amazing, but it's also completely broken, especially right now. But like right now in America, if I got cancer, I am screwed. All right, because I don't have insurance and all this kind of stuff. Right now in Qatar, if I found out tomorrow I have cancer, I have free cancer treatment until I'm cured, or whatever.
Right.
And it's that way in so many other countries because they realize, wait, if we take a little bit of money away from all this dumb spending and put it towards college and towards medical, we're going to do great. Especially like the European, like Norway and Netherlands, and insane, man, the stuff that they're doing. 4-day work weeks, 6-hour work days. And you're way more productive when you do that, by the way. But people in the West, they don't have that mindset there yet. And
no, we're all about getting as much as we can get done in 23 hours of the day, every day.
Gotta grind, no vacation. Oh wait, I'm 50. What happened?
Well, thanks for calling me out.
Are you? I thought
almost.
You were okay. I thought you were like my age, like mid 40s, whatever.
No, 48. Almost 49 now. But yeah.
Okay. Well, you got a good 30 left, something like that. Fingers crossed.
What's that?
Said you got a good 30 left or so.
God, my size.
Hopefully more. Yeah, I know. I'm starting to worry about that a little bit too. So I'm starting to take steps because I'm 6'2". I'm trying to think because I'm trying to convert now. So I'm 6'2", 188 centimeters, and I'm 120 kilos. So I'm like 250.
Yeah, that's about right. What, 2.2 pounds per kilo? Yeah.
So I definitely need to cut it down. My optimal weight is like 185, but for me, 200 was always like the sweet spot. 200 was fine,
Yeah.
You're
they tell me that my sweet spot is like 205.
Really? No, it's a little low. I think you could do like 210, 215, 220. You'd be all right.
I'm thinking 300.
Yeah, I mean,
301. 301's is gross.
299.
299 would be great.
It's like when you go to the store. It's only 299. No, it's 300, but whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you got going on?
So as the Tabletop Santa persona, I've got all sorts of like contests and stuff going on right now for the holidays. There's some giveaways, and I have my naughty and nice list. Which I think you've probably seen those TikToks. I got my
people love the
nice list, and I actually put fellow TikTokers in it.
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking like a week or two before Christmas, I will go through and I'll do like a random number generator to pick a name out of the book.
Yeah.
And that person will get a prize pack of a game bundle of probably 10 to 15 board games.
Oh.
And then the naughty list, I'm doing the same thing, but the board games that's in their stack is a little more like Cards Against Humanity. Not quite safe for work, because naughty doesn't mean bad. It just means mischievous.
Right.
Maybe it prefers a little more adult themed content. So,
yeah.
And because the game industry has content that fits that, I want to show them that, you may not, not everybody plays games, but there is a game for everybody, regardless of what you do. If you collect tools in your real life, that's your thing. I collect, Snap-on tools. There's a game that is about collecting Snap-on tools and making, it's a set collection game. And it's like, okay, so I just wanted to make more people aware of that. I'm doing a lot of like voiceover stuff and, just keep helping the industry that I love, because earlier when we were talking and you mentioned being in a youth home, I was also in a youth home for only a year, thank God. And then I was in foster care. But I will say this, tabletop gaming was what was my distraction in that time. A lot of other people find other things. You obviously found work. You were like, I'm in a situation. It's not the greatest situation. So I'm going to work, and you're going to work 2 jobs and go to school and just be constantly, preoccupied.
Yeah.
And I found myself being more of I like games. A couple of the counselors at the youth home I was at were very much into like war gaming, like Axis and Allies and stuff. And they were like showing me all these different games and stuff. So, and it was like, and it's always been there. We always have our thing that it's always there for us, right?
Before it was
in our time of need. There's that thing. And board gaming and tabletop gaming has always been there for me. And I'm at a spot now in my life where I feel like I can help the industry that helped me through those times, even in the military. It's when you're deployed overseas and there's nothing to do, the USO at any base has board games.
Board games, card games.
That's where you would find me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, so like I said, I'm at a spot in my life where I can give back. And do I make some money on it? I do. But
you're
it's not like
good. The amount of work that you're putting for it, man. Like you're the only person I know that's as busy, if not more busy than me, when it comes to the stuff that we enjoy, but we're actually covering. Like every time I log into something, you're there. Talking about a certain game or it's like a good thing, because it's the way you do it is, it's done well. Like I enjoy it, even if it's a game like initially that I didn't have interest in, like the color one. Once I saw that, I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. Like I could see myself playing that, So there's a lot of ones where I'm like, I wouldn't want to play that. But then when I watch you and you go through the rules or you do the 1 minute highlight, I'm like, well, it's actually pretty dope. There's very few that you've showed where, at least after you've done like a highlight or explain the rules, where I was like, I don't think I'd want to play that. Like I still am like, that might be worth trying,
Right. And, well, one of the things about gaming is that a lot of people I think forget or don't take into account is a game can be fun or bad based on who you play it with.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Just like life.
Just like life. And I am a very big fan of making it seem like I like it, because I do. And if I'm enjoying it, then that should translate to whoever watches my videos that, that looks fun because he's having fun. And what's fun about it too is if you were to sit across the table from me and play a game, I don't play to win. Even if it's a competitive game, I play to enjoy the company of the people I'm with.
Yeah.
to experience the game mechanics and the game itself, the flavor of the game, and just spend time with my friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people need to remember.
Yeah.
Right. Is we're there to enjoy the company of our friends, and the game is truly just secondary to that experience.
Yeah. It's the platform to bring you together, you know.
Correct. Will the game give you memories and things that will be fun in the as you recall it? Be like, oh yeah, I remember that time we played Gloomhaven and you ran in with your barbarian and Leroy Jenkins that room and we all died. That was freaking awesome. I know we didn't win that session, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what gaming is to me. And I think for you, I think that would probably be the same. Right.
Oh yeah, I really want to do it. I really want to get into it and play it because I mean the way that my imagination works and all the reading and writing and movies and shows that I've watched, like I have all these scenarios that I think like when you did that the bridge and you showed the different ways that you can make the bridge. I was like, oh man, imagine if you did a scenario where like they had to try to jump, but if you roll like too small a number, you fall down and maybe there's a creature in the water. Like that would be cool, you know.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the Wiz Kids Bridge that I have. A lot of the retailers that I've talked to about it don't like it, and they're like, it's a one use item. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There are so many things that you can have. And they're like, and they're like, give me an example. I was like, much like you said, yeah, there's a hazard. If they don't clear the hazard, there's a new hazard below them, and that's a scene. And I was like, well, could you imagine a perpetual bridge? And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, it's like Groundhog's Day. It's a scene where it's like Groundhog's Day. You start on one side of the bridge and you just got to cross the bridge, but you have to cross it the right way.
Yeah.
If you mess up and you get to the other side, you pass out or the guards knock you out and you wake up and you're on the other side of the bridge again. And you're like, what the heck? And they're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I was like, that's just one.
Yeah.
that bridge could be millions of things.
Yeah. Or you could do like a Monty Python thing where the DM has asked certain questions.
Right. Across this bridge, you must answer my questions 3.
There's a ton of stuff, man.
Yeah. And I like doing those kind of things where it's like I could build a one-shot event based on just this one thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of others are like, it's a one-time shot. You can't do much with it. And I'm like, well, you're not going to sell it.
Yeah, you're not understanding it. I mean, if people can sit there and build whole worlds out of like bottles and boxes and a little bit of paint, but then you have like this amazing bridge or, like a cemetery or even like a hallway with stones or what. Dude, there's so many things you can do with that. You just have to let go and think about it and have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know if you watched the Troll Hunters on Netflix. I don't know if that's the
DreamWorks thing.
Yeah,
not yet. I want to.
If you haven't, watch it.
What's Guillermo del Toro, right?
Del Toro.
Yeah, so it's going to be good.
It's good, and he, much like in Hellboy, when he talks about the troll market, and to get to the troll market, you got to go under a bridge. Yeah. And I'm like, this is my gateway to the troll market. And they're like, what's the troll market? And I was like, Jesus, do you not watch anything? Are you not, I'm like, it's a world where the fey creatures have their marketplace. It's kind of like Diagon Alley.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
But it's and they're like, oh man, you really could do a lot with the bridge. I'm like, duh. Yeah, it's and I think that's one of, again, not just board games, but tabletop games in general. When you think about it, everybody plays something, and we've all played games in our life. Like I love it when someone says, "Oh, I don't play games. I've never played any games." I was like, "You've never played peekaboo with your kid?
Yeah.
You've never done a sing-song rhyme, which is a game to educate your child?" And I'm like, if you have, you've played a game, and it's just keep playing, because we learn a lot about, each other through play. We learn a lot about history. There's games like there's a game called Warsaw that as you play it, you learn what
Napoleon.
In Poland. Yeah, the city of Warsaw, and it talks about how it went through, because of the world wars, and it got just destroyed, and how the culture has been regrown, and they build new buildings, and these are historically accurate buildings that were built in Warsaw, and it's a tile placement game that's all about the rebuilding of the city of Warsaw. And it's like, I would not have known this had I not played that game, because it wasn't on my radar. But because it is a game and I played it and I enjoyed it, I learned something from it. And I think that's another thing too, is like everything, there's great opportunity for education. There's great opportunity, one, for entertainment, obviously, and then engagement with your friends and family. I'll always return to that. Friends and family. That's it.
That's the main thing. Yeah. So it's like a post-war Carcassonne or something?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, you're basically building, you get your resources, and then as you get to a certain point, you can build like a museum, whatever the post-World War II museum. And then whatever the thing that was underneath it is no longer a point value to whoever played it. Right. And you're just rebuilding Warsaw after World War I. And then there's the tragedy hits and a couple buildings get destroyed, and now you're rebuilding it again after World War II. Yeah. It's neat. And there's a lot of games like that. There's games that teach you about, the periodic table, or and it's a game called Compound, and it's fun. Again, you mentioned earlier, there's 7 new chemicals created every day, right? And there's a game literally about chemical construction called Compound. It's like, and I played that with my son who's 15, and he's like, I learned more about the periodic table playing this game than my science teacher has taught me up to this point. Yeah. And I'm like, and I go, why do you say that? And he goes, because I had fun learning and playing this game. Yeah. They're dry and humorless. And, and that's another thing too, is when you play games with like your kids, when it's a game that you don't necessarily expect them to grasp really fast. Yeah. But when they do, and they grasp it in such a way that they're better than you at it, man, pride, heart swells, the whole thing. I played the first true board game. They're all, all games are games and board games and stuff. But the one that I brought to my table for my kids that I was like skeptical about was a game called Mysterium. And in that game, it's all about subjective thought based on artwork to basically solve the murder of a person in a mansion. It's a new version of Clue. And after the first round, my daughter and son were both like, we got this. And they were just, and my daughter won the game, and she's just like, could identify based on clues that were given. And the ghost, I played the ghost, it can only answer with yes and no. And that's only in the form of yes, no. And it's like, that's it. And they figured it out. And I was like, all right. And then I started bringing harder and harder games to the table. And when you see them click and you see them start learning about, what's an engine building mechanic, what's a drafting mechanic, what's, worker placement or resource management, and they start getting that concept, that's going to help them in other aspects. And it's like, yes, it's so good.
Yeah, with you, like every day is a literal Christmas.
That's true. Like even before we started this interview, the UPS guy dropped off 2 boxes of stuff one from Funko and one from another publisher. And it's like, it's like Christmas every day, because we open the boxes like, oh,
that's cool.
It's fun.
So where can people find you online?
So on pretty much all social media platforms, I can be found as Tabletop Santa now. I have a Facebook page. I have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and on Twitter, you can put in Tabletop Santa and find me, but it's at Geektography, because much like you, There was a time in my life where it was photography and videography were my thing. And I mean, I still do the videography and stuff, but the photography, not as much.
It won't let you change it?
For some reason, I can't change from @geekography to @tabletop Santa. For whatever reason, I can probably go back. I'll go back and check it. Yeah. But like my upper name, my screen name is Tabletop Santa.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, it took me a while the other day when I tagged you in a post I did about what we were going to try to do. That was the hardest one. I was like, oh, finally I found it.
Yeah, Twitter's the worst.
But yeah, if you guys aren't following, if you have any interest in anything geeky, really, but especially tabletop gaming,
miniatures,
miniatures, and if you just want something different to watch on TikTok besides this or whatever, whatever. That's the only time you'll ever see me dab, by the way, which I know is uncool and out of style now anyway, but I don't really care. But yeah, so definitely really good content, especially for people who have like a PO box, whether it's here or in the States. There's so many things that you've shown where I'm like, oh man, I want to get that, I want to play that, and, So I highly encourage everybody to give them a follow. What about YouTube? Any YouTube?
I did launch a YouTube channel, and I'm actually putting up interviews that I've been doing with publishers, so that I have about 3 or 4 more to put up, and then I'll be doing another cycle. But it's very few videos are up there. I think I only have 4 or 5.
Yeah, but you gotta start somewhere. Is it Tabletop Santa?
It is Tabletop Santa. Yes.
Okay. Have a good night. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.